Hello, Skid. You're not Wombat. Hey, everybody. That's right. Well, hey, welcome everybody. Thank you, Skid, for filling in.
Glad to be here.
Wombat was going to be on the show tonight, but he had some family stuff come up. Couldn't make it, so we'll catch him next time. And today, pretty happy to have an old friend of mine. We haven't seen one another in several years, but through some mutual friends, man, we got reconnected, and it's kind of like old times. Peachez, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, Peachez.
Hey, Skid, what's going on?
Living the dream, baby.
Doug, you with us?
Yes, sir.
All right. Awesome.
Doug.
Almost got lost because I was chatting with Mover and he distracted me.
Where's Mover, Gonky?
The other thing, it is not the Mover and Gonky show today. It is the Skid and Gonky show today.
Oh, it's the Gonky Skid Peachez show.
Yeah, Mover was he got back late from some travel, and yeah, he's not able to make it tonight. So
he needs his beauty rest.
This is what you got. So, yeah, he needs.
At this age, I think we all do.
Yeah, valid, 100% valid, man.
Commercial flights weren't on schedule.
I'm so tired.
Yeah. Well, hey, Skid, man, what's been going on? You've been out for a couple episodes. You've been flying.
Yeah, I wasn't called. Yeah, you guys just like. I have to chime in on the net. Hey, can I come on the show?
No. So Peachez, we always keep Skid on the Waste Cat ready 5, ready to go, baby. in case somebody drops out, dude. He's the turning spare, and he's always locked and cocked.
Whoa. Glad to be here, Gonky. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. That's awesome.
Is there anything else going on tonight in the world that we should be watching?
No, nothing. Nothing nearly as important as 3 fighter pilots talking about themselves. So that's the way it works around here.
Story on. Let's go, bro.
Hey, quick shout out to the 53rd, which is the Hurricane Hunters. Another, I think, spoke with Move earlier. They're maybe going to get a hurricane. So
Francine,
those guys,
right? Francine?
Yeah.
Francine, right?
Yeah.
It just got hurricane status.
There's no maybe. It's just aware now.
It's just say that again, Doug.
So it's a hurricane. It's definitely going to hit it. Just a matter of where.
Yeah. So over at the 53rd, we had Withy on. We had Withy on a couple weeks ago, and he's going to be flying through the storm there. They're going to be doing what they do to, help the forecasters out. So, thoughts and prayers of those guys. Hope they stay safe flying around that storm. I'm not convinced yet. I would like to be bombing around in a hurricane in C-130, but that's just me. So, but yeah, Peachez, man. Thanks for coming on, dude. You did a podcast with the with the Afterburn podcast a couple weeks ago. I listened to it. It was pretty good. So, before we kind of get started, man, I don't want to, rehash the Afterburn podcast completely, because you guys actually talk about some really cool stuff on there. But as far as our audience is concerned, man, we always like to ask, and before you answer this, Peachez and I were Hornet pilots back in the day. We were actually in the same air wing. CAG 9, right? God, I'm getting
right.
old.
Yeah, CAG 9.
CAG 9. I was a world famous Blue Diamonds.
I should have Margo mode.
Yeah, your kid probably dropped it. And yeah, Peachez was in the Argos, literally in same hangar, just down the hallway. So, so we got to fly together a little bit there in the air wing, and then afterwards, I became a RAG IP. Peachez became a Top Gun. He went to Top Gun, came back West Coast Weapons School, and then we flew together as instructors in the RAG, because we would have Weapons School Top Gun guys come over as guest IPs in the FRS or the RTU for your Air Force to help with student production. So that was really cool too. We got to fly. And then the last time I think we quasi flew together was when Mover and I were at VFA 204, I think down in Key West.
Yeah, it was 2000, I think, 15 on the workups right before my last Navy deployment in the 2015 and 16. I think you guys were doing Red Air support for SFARP.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we went out. Key West is always a good time. Went out, had some dinner, and told some old stories again. So that's kind of the snapshot of our relationship and how we know one another. But we always ask, Peachez, how'd you get interested in aviation, man?
Yeah, I was interested in aviation from when I was a little kid. I explained this, but my grandfather was a World War II pilot. He flew C-46s and 47s over the hump in the Himalayas. So I still have one of his old logbooks. He has about 100 missions or something. So it was pretty incredible. And then my mother was a private pilot as well. So my grandfather had trained my mother to be a private pilot. She had stopped flying before, I came around. She just, didn't want to continue on with having kids and everything, but she always kind of pushed me towards aviation. She knew that she knew I wasn't the academic bright one of the family. Both of my brothers were valedictorians and I was not. So,
perfect.
So she was like, yeah, she was like, you should go try out aviation. It's more like sports. So she really pushed me in that direction. So.
Oh, that's awesome. And now, are you the only one of your siblings that pursued any kind of real flying, or did any of them get private pilot or anything like that?
No, I'm the only one. My oldest brother lives overseas and does finance, and then my other brother, but very close to both of them, come from a very small family. But my other brother works at Humana Healthcare. He's been there for a long time and been in the healthcare industry for a long time.
Oh,
excellent.
Wow, dude. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's awesome, dude. Your grandfather was a World War II.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I kind of explained this, but it's interesting. My grandfather passed away in an airplane crash when I was about 7 months old. And so it's still interesting that my mother continued to push me in that direction, because typically, when there's a tragedy, shy away from it, she was like, this is your thing. And honestly, I tried finance in college. I was all right at it. When I went to aviation, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do with my life. And that was sealed the deal for me. So
that's funny, man. Yeah. I took like one accounting class in college and I had to drop it. I just couldn't do I'm not good at math, numbers, any of that stuff. Skip, what was your major?
I got a PhD in rocketry. Negative. I'm poli-sci.
Poli-sci. Oh, geez, yeah. So
easy peasy. Write that paper.
Yeah. It's so funny. I remember being a kid. People were like, you got to have an engineering degree to be a pilot. I was like, well, let's cross that off for me.
Bad at math too.
Yeah, no pilot for me. Did you? I don't know this, man. How did you get? What was your commissioning source?
I went through officer candidate school, and it was crazy because I had to do officer candidate school twice. It was amazing. I got the bonus try out of it. So
why? What happened?
So I graduated college. I literally swore into the Navy two weeks before September 11th, 2001.
Wow.
I wound up graduating from college in 2002, and I went into the military in OCS. And during that time frame, when I went through OCS, one of my eyes failed. Basically, the sight test at NAMI. So I got the NAMI whammy. Wow. So they tried to convince me to go to the WIZO route, or go to the intelligence route or whatever, for about 8 weeks. I kept on saying no, I want to be a fighter pilot. They kept on saying, if you leave, you'll never come back.
Wow.
So finally they got the message, and I was medically discharged in 2002. I had to go back and get corrective surgery done, and it's a big long story, but got corrective surgery done and reapplied 3 times after they turned me down. Finally kind of had a hand of Providence moment, and was reaccepted back into officer candidate school in 2005. So I got to do it all over again. So the drilling stuff was me. So
dang, Peachez, I had no idea. Well, that's a good story of perseverance, man. I mean, one of the things that Mover spearheaded it, Skid and I support it, is the Make Them Tell You No Facebook page and mindset, right? So there's quite a few people who watch this show and who you're just trying to find out, hey, how do I get into military aviation? What are the hurdles? If they tell you, nope, you can't come in because your eye's jacked. Are you screwed? So what's the process? So,
Yeah.
dude, a story like that's awesome, man. I mean,
That's incredible. Perseverance.
Yeah, so you went to OCS in Pensacola in 02.
I did. Yep.
Do you remember what your class was? What your class number was?
It would have been July. So,
Oh, dude.
Lewis was my
Drill instructor?
Yeah, drill instructor. Lewis was my drill instructor for the first time around. I believe it was Lewis. It's been a while, but yeah, July, I believe right after July 4th. So it must have been like July 7th, 8th time.
Wow.
2002.
Dude, we were there at the same time.
Oh,
Yeah. I was class 2502 and I started in May and I
wow.
graduated in August.
So you would have been like one of the senior dudes there.
Kind of, yeah. Like I don't know, maybe, yeah. That's wild, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
How long is OCS, whatever it is?
I believe
for
it
you
was.
guys?
I mean, it's been a while. I believe it was 12 or 13 weeks long, something like that.
90-day wonders?
It's 3 months of arduous
90-day wonders. Yeah.
Well,
That's what the Air
already,
Force calls them.
we were already wonders before, but
That's true.
I wonder.
That's true. 100%, man. I just needed, yeah, exactly.
That's cool,
I
man.
just needed some sharpening. No, yeah, it was incredible, because
Wow.
I tell this story, but I was down to my last chance for getting in the Navy, because at the time the cutoff was like 27 and a half. I was like 25.
Yeah.
It takes about 8 to 10 months to reapply. So I'd reapplied
Wow.
3 times. And during this time frame, and I just think it's a story worth telling for perseverance and for people out there that are struggling. I went around, I kid you not, I would not take no for an answer. I went to the mayor of Jeffersonville, Indiana. I was running around all over the place.
Wow.
And I wound up sitting down at a VFW, and I was, telling everybody I could how much I needed to be a naval aviator, anybody that would listen.
Wow.
And this old dude says, tell me your story, this old gentleman. And he came back and he said, you're not going to believe this, but my son is the head over Bupers down in Millington, Tennessee.
That's the
Yes.
that Bupers does the manning. For our listeners, Bupers does the manning for the Navy. It's like the HR department.
So he called his son right there and put me on speakerphone. I talked to his son and said, hey, tell me your story. And then he said, drive down here. I'll interview you. And if you pass to Millington, Tennessee, I'll get you back in. So I literally was, I didn't think I was going to have another chance to get back in, because when you're administratively discharged, for medical, it's tough to get back in.
Yeah.
And I drove down there, put a suit on, and interviewed. And 4 days later, I was accepted back into officer candidate school in 2005. So that was my story. It's a pretty crazy story. I think
he got you back in. That
he
guy.
did. He did. Yeah. He literally, the older gentleman connected with his son, and they wrote me a letter. Or actually, I went down, interviewed, and 4 days later, they said I got an acceptance letter. So pretty great.
So,
was that based upon the fact that you had previously been a Navy pilot candidate and gotten disqualified? And he said, yeah, we got you fixed. You're good to go now.
So I think what winds up happening is, and I've never worked at Bupers, but leading up to 2001, when I first got in, I did not have good grades in college, not at all. And so they were really needing naval aviators and naval officers at the time. So it was a lot easier to get in.
Wow.
Well, September 11th happened, and I was trying to get back in 2004. The demand was, much higher. And so you went from having for me, a 2.9 in college to having a 3.8 in an engineering degree to get in the aviation door. So the only thing I could change during that time frame is flying. So I wound up getting my CFI, double I, flying, doing a lot of stuff. And so, they were looking at me and they were like, hey, your grades aren't up. But it just, like I said, man, God opened the door. I walked through it, man. And
awesome.
1 year later, I retire next year. I'm ready.
Well, did you, so you went to OCS Pensacola, and then when you went in 05, was Pensacola still there? Did you go?
It was still Pensacola. Yeah.
It was still, okay. Because the hurricane, I know, they no longer do it. They no longer do OCS in Pensacola because the hurricane, I think in 05, destroyed it, right? Probably right after you left.
I think it was actually an 04 time frame, and a lot of the buildings were destroyed, damaged. and I think they wound up moving it in 2006. But I went through both of my OCS stints were in Pensacola, Florida.
Wow.
Wow, man. Yeah. Well, I mean, OCS was kind of a game that you had to figure out and pass, but it did. That's how I ended up back in the Panhandle here, because I found out, while I was becoming a sugar cookie in the sand pit, I was like, it's pretty nice here. So now I live in the Panhandle. So Peachez. So from there, where did you go to primary?
I did API, or aviation pre-flight indoctrination, down in Pensacola, and then I actually took off and did primary down in Corpus Christi, Texas.
Wow.
Okay. We went down there for primary and then followed on to Kingsville, Texas for T-45s.
Okay.
Did you fly the T-34, or did they have T-6 by then?
No, it was all T-34, the C's, the Charlie, the Mentors. So
were you one of the last? Were you one of the last?
I don't think so. I don't think that they wound up getting. I think they were the last to get T6s, and
really
several years after I let out. I want to say that it was roughly 2009 and 10 timeframe. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, it was all T-34s when I was down there.
Skid when the Air Force got it first, right? When did they get the T6?
Well, the JPAT, Joint Primary Trainer or something. I was a tweet negative tweet IP at Columbus, 91, 94, flying the tweet. And the T6 came in, I think, in, either late 90s. Was that right?
That might be too early. I know, dude, when I went.
Or maybe early 2000s.
Yeah, when I was advanced 03, I know at Moody they had them, because my Navy buddy, Peachez, I guess a couple years before, maybe they did it when you were there too. They would send some people to Air Force primary.
Maybe there's a way to find that information out.
Google. I just it's way more fun to speculate. Like, we don't.
Where's Doug? We need Doug. Where's Doug to help?
We don't care about facts on this show. It's all about speculation.
The internet says operational 2010, but I don't know.
Whoa. No, really?
Yeah, see, that's why we weren't using the internet.
That's why, dude. Okay. You got to QA everything. Yeah.
All right.
Well, you could definitely caught the tail end of the T-34. How did you enjoy flying that thing? Because I never flew it.
I loved it. I actually wound up when I was at the weapons school. We had a couple T-34s that were there as well, and
really,
it's crazy. We would use those for like range safety, for bombing and whatnot.
Range
safety.
Range safety.
That's right.
AKA fun ride.
That's right. The lunch run, we would call it.
I was gonna say, so Skid, we had them at the RAG too, for low safe and stuff for the Hornet.
Free airplanes. Here, fly these This is a Navy for you. Have some extra airplanes. Just fly them.
Well, yeah. So the guys in the T-34 shop were like, "We're going for currency." It's like, you're the reason we're broke.
I don't like it, Gonky. I don't like it.
Yeah, that's
awesome. I don't like that.
So you enjoyed flying a T-34?
I did. Yeah, I loved it. The AC sucked and there was no ejection seat.
Yeah.
That was always.
You had a parachute, right?
We did. We had a parachute.
What are you complaining about, man?
We had the scarf as well. We would open up the window and let the scarf flow.
Did
like your grandfather.
Did you ever fly with the canopy open? I mean, you could, right? You could slide it back.
You would always slide it back. I think that you would do that during one of the emergency procedures, like the bailout procedure. You would literally open it up and then put it back just to demonstrate that you could do it. But the T-34.
So the T-34 lost a canopy. Is that right? Is that here? The T-40 lost a canopy in flight?
I'm sure I'm sure they have in the past, Skid. So Peachez, Skid and a T-38 has lost a canopy.
Oh, wow.
I did. I lost it.
Just flying along. Whoop. Convertible.
Who did that?
One of the many things Skid is very.
And my scarf stayed on.
Yeah. Hey, Skid, you had a you were given an incentive ride too at the time.
I had a cadet, Air Force Academy cadet in the back seat. Great kid, very upbeat and positive. He wanted to fly fighters or something, and when I lost my canopy, he thought I punched out.
I was gonna say, were you like, kid, stay with it? It's like, don't.
All he saw was a red canopy light come on, and the thing went away. He couldn't see my noggin. I'm down in the front, down here. And he put his hands, he says, like this on top the grips.
Oh, dude.
And then I'm yelling at him in the intercom saying, "Are you okay, man?"
Yeah, stay with it.
And he didn't. He did not. He stayed with it, baby.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's a
dude.
Could
crazy
have been a
story.
hero.
Oh, yeah.
Good kid.
Yeah. Well, Peachez, so hey, from T-34s, you got jets. So I'm curious, man, what was so in the early 2000s when I went through, it was literally nobody was getting jets. You know, that's pretty much, at least when I was in, like an API and stuff, everybody was kind of curious about how many jet slots there were going to be, which I think it's voodoo magic personally, but I know in the early 2000s there wasn't many, but I know when I selected there was 2, and I think I was the number 2 guy, and I got the second one. How about you? Was there a decent drop, or?
You know, it's interesting because during the time frame I was out of the military from 2002 to 2005, I wound up getting almost 1,000 hours of flight time. So when I went into T-34s, I mean, I wound up getting on an accelerated program, and T-34s it wasn't a big deal. So at the time, I think there was a normal spread. I mean, it wasn't like there wasn't a jet drought and there wasn't a ton of them, but I believe there was maybe 2 or 3. We had a larger selection class. I remember we had 10 people, and I think 3 of us wound up getting jets out of the 10.
Wow.
But
is that normal? What's a normal drop?
When I was in, 2 or 3, maybe 1.
Yeah.
Well, you got 5? Is that right? 5?
When I was there, I think the drop was 8 to 10, something like that.
All jets?
No, of total. And out of T-34s, let's just call it 10 people that wound up selecting that week. There's 3 people that got jets. So about 30%, 20%, 30%, something like that.
Is that average?
When I was going through, that was a little bit of a bigger class. And sometimes they would have 1 jet spot. Sometimes they would have 2 jet spots. So I would simply say probably 20% of the people that went through T-34s, at least during my time frame, wound up getting jets, maybe a little bit more, something like maybe 30%.
Yeah. That's a big question we get on the Make Them Tell You No Facebook page. These kids say, should I go Air Force or Navy? How do I get a fighter? And it's hard for me to tell them what the Navy does, or what's the likelihood if you make it to naval flight training, are your odds 50-50? I understand it's all depending on your grades, and looking good in the shower. But the question, I mean, no, I'm serious.
Volleyball court, bro.
Hey, bro. All right. No, the question for the young kids, they want to know is who do I have a better chance with flying fighters for, the Air Force or the Navy / Marine Corps?
The reserves.
I think Air Force. Well, I think Air Force because we have more fighters. We have more fighters available than the Navy because you have a few carriers that go out there in the water with a few squadrons, right? What's your typical squadron? 10 jets, 12 jets in a squadron, Navy squadron?
When I was there, the Super Hornet squadrons were 12 jets, and the Legacies were between 10 and 12 jets. Something like that. But
and how this is going to get? I'm going to get a little difficult here right now. Our question here: what is the manning rate per jet? It's like 2.5, 1.5, 2.0. I mean, is it higher, normal, lower? Do you even know that?
It was 1.5. It was typically 18 pilots in the Super Hornet squadron. But that being said, we were never manned at 100%. So it was typically 16 to 17. So
undermanned.
We were always undermanned just a little bit.
Wow.
But I think when we went on deployment, they would bump us up to 18, but it was 1.5.
Okay. I'm just trying to get a picture for these young people that want to know, where am I going to fly as much as Maverick does in Top Gun? It seemed like he was flying every day in that movie, Can you believe that? He was always flying.
Well,
and in 06.
They had more money back then, Skid.
Why do 06s fly so much in that movie, Gonky?
Oh, in the modern? Well, because he's in 06 for one. For one, dude. If we, like I said, a Navy captain, you're like a 5-star general in the Air Force.
How much would the CAG fly? At all?
Yeah, a little bit. He was never someone that we would go to for tactics whatsoever, but
that's funny.
They're like, come on, Grandpa, let's go fly a little bit.
Whoa.
No, they were all of our CAGs were actually, most of our CAGs were pretty were pretty good. And they were really experienced, but they weren't, their main job was not to be the
Running the
tactician
wing.
anymore. Their main job was to run the air wing and make sure that everyone was, doing what they were supposed to do and whatnot. So
Would they take the night weather cat launch and go fly the Vol at midnight? Or they take the day VFR sorties?
yeah. This is a great an Argonaut story for you. I don't know, Gonky, if you knew this, but so we literally we have what's called a greenie board in the Navy, and they track every single landing.
Sure.
And typically, a green puck would be an OK pass, which is a 4.0 grade point average.
Is that a 3-wire?
It depends. Mainly, it's a 3-wire, but it's really the pass that counts. Gonky was an LSO. He knows.
No, I wasn't, dude.
You weren't?
You were not? Okay.
No, were you an LSO?
I was an LSO in the Argos, but I obviously didn't go on past then. Yeah, I was an yeah, I know.
Top Gun and LSO. That's 2 strikes, man. One more, this stream's over.
Yeah.
Don't trust a word he says.
That's right. So a yellow would be a fair pass, and then a red would be like a wave off. Brown would be like a no grade, so on and so forth.
Whoa.
But we wound up, and everyone sees your grades. Like there's no hiding from them.
Nope.
Like it's peer pressure, and you want to do well. But then our senior JO, we had this amazing senior JO, and I'll use his call sign because I don't want to use his name. I haven't asked for permission, but his call sign was little meat. And anyway, little meat was.
I already know where this is going, but keep going.
He was an amazing guy. Like he had been 75th Ranger Regiment dude that had busted indoors and crazy places, and then he had came over to the Navy. Wound up going through Top Gun as well. He was basically my senior JO that I showed up, and he was a hardcore cat. So he came up with this thing that said, anybody who flies a day pass gets a pink square, right? So in the first time in history, every Argonaut JO, including myself, was fighting for the night page because we did not want to have that green board. And honestly, it was probably one of the best things that ever happened because we wound up becoming a really good, at night squadron. But it was just all due to peer pressure from Little Meat. So
I can vouch for that. Meat was a good. He was a solid dude, and like you said, he's somebody you want to be on the good side.
Oh yeah.
Peachez. Hey, so you went to Kingsville. Were you in the A model or the C model?
I was in the A model. Yeah.
Oh, dude.
VT-22 had A models, and I think VT-21 had C models, but I went through A models.
Yeah, skits. So the A model that Peachez and I flew is very much like the T-38A that we flew.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's the same ADI probably. All analog. No, it had a HUD, but it was just for show, basically.
Yep.
No velocity vector or nothing. But yeah, Peachez, how did the T-45 treat you?
The T-45 was actually a lot more challenging for me because my learning curve was so high. I mean, I already knew everything for the most part in T-34s except for formation flying. And I was able to catch on to that pretty well with my, hand-eye coordination. But when I went to the T-45, like I had never flown a jet. I'd never flown that fast. And so the learning curve was a lot higher. And so where I went from on an accelerated program, my learning curve went to straight up average. Everyone's like, what's wrong with Porter? And like, well, I was so anyway, it was busy, but I was still able to graduate with above average grades. But I worked so much harder at T-45s, just kind of learning how those fly and so on and so forth. So it was good though.
Yeah. When in the Navy when you're in that senior in the 45 program, how far down the road do they tell you you're going to be a C2 guy or a E2 guy or a strike Hornet guy or whatever? When do you get your assignment?
So I believe it's changed now. But at the time, honestly, it was assigned after T-34s.
Really?
After T-34s.
You knew your assignment after 34s?
After 34s, you knew whether you were going to be a tailhook fighter or an E2, C2 Bubba. Now, you didn't know if you were going to fly the Hornet, the Super Hornet, the Prowler, so on and so forth. But but yeah.
When do you find that out? When would you find that out? The airframe out thing
at the very end, after you qualify the aircraft carrier and you're done with your BFM or basic fighter maneuver syllabuses, they tally up your grades, and again, based on how competitive you are and the drops for that week, you get an assignment. So
yeah. Do they do a drop night or assignment night in the Navy like the Air Force does?
No, they simply show up and say, "Hey, dude, you got Super Hornets anymore. You're moving next week."
You wait a minute. The skipper didn't play in the office?
It's incredible, man. Like my wife, man, I have the most wonderful and loving wife of all time. But I was planning on getting married in between getting Super Hornets or, leaving Kingsville from the T-45s and going out and reporting to Super Hornets at Lemoore. And they moved up my date. So I walked in, I said, "Hey, like, I'm getting married, man. Like, I want to go on a honeymoon." And the guy looks at me and goes, "Your honeymoon is going to be in SEER training."
Whoa.
Well, welcome to the fleet.
That's right. I wanted to be married. And then I went to SEER training and spent 2 weeks butt naked with my best friends. So,
that's right, dude. Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
What did the wife think about that?
She's she's amazing. Give a beat. I mean, we both look back now and we're like, why did we not take a honeymoon? And then I point out myself and I'm like, I'm sorry, babe. But she didn't miss a beat. She moved out to California and set up the house all by herself. She's a good woman. She crushes life. So
good.
That's awesome.
Good Navy wife.
That's awesome. Yeah, man. For me, the skipper pulled me in the office and
said sorry.
Yeah. No, he had sorry. You made it through the program, but you're so bad. No, he just had the shoulder patch for the Rough Raiders, Legacy Hornets, and he just slapped it on my. Have fun a little more. I was like, yeah. But that was it, dude. It wasn't. It's not like in the Air Force skate where it's a big deal at the.
So, Gonky, you went to an Air Force assignment night?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
Did you like it? Did you like it?
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's awesome. Peachez, have you ever gone to Air Force assignment night?
No, I have not. I've seen them. I've seen some videos of them and whatnot. And it looks amazing. It looks really cool.
It's a great time, man. It's your big reveal party, if you will. It's like who you're gonna be married to for the next 30 years, and it's your life in 1 second. You find out your life. You're gonna be flying with all your hands on the throttles. Or your buddy in the cockpit, or
making history.
Or you by yourself.
Well, they even do like when we were done with T-37s. So when we were done with the first primary in the Air Force, we all came into a room, and they kind of had like it wasn't an assignment night, but we had a track select night. I guess that would be so it was either 38s or T1s, and it's kind of cool. There's a guy in my class. He wanted 38s so bad, smash mouth, and they boom, T1s, and he's like, oh, okay, and everything's good to go. Dude, like they do the entire thing, and then at the very end, they're like, oh, hey, wait a minute, we had to mix up in the slides, and he went crazy. They gave him T-38s, and
they tricked him.
Yeah, it was funny though, because he was he was the kind of guy that does that you would want to do that too. So, but they did it because they liked him, man. He was super motivated. But
hey, do you guys know that the new Air Force pilot training, you get your wings after T6s?
I've heard that.
You're a rated pilot after T6 program.
Yeah,
that's kind of crazy.
It's incredible because when I was going through T-45s. You wound up getting your wings after you finished everything. Your last flight, they would come out and put your wings on. And up to that point, I kid you not. I kid you not.
It's like the airlines. Yeah, here's your wings.
Yeah, and that was your soft winging. Then they actually did a massive ceremony, which was really cool, traditional for your family would come down for the winging. Yeah, but I'll never forget. There's several people that would get all the way to the aircraft carrier, do carrier landings, be done, not make it. And the Navy wouldn't transfer them to any other airframe. They were done. Their careers were over. They were transferred out of aviation into intelligence or something else. It was
the whole program, and they're not winged.
not winged. 2.5 years of training, two and a half years of training, and done.
Oh.
So
No VNAB, no board, no retraining.
No, they would do a FNAB, right? Peaches,
Yeah.
they would do. Yeah. So skid. I mean, normally the way it works, they would do. They would take a look at each individual case and they would
Sure.
okay, this guy can't land on the boat. How's his attitude? How's his training progressing? Any external factors?
Yeah.
And I mean, I've heard as many as three tries, but usually you got two. Usually you got two, and you were, if you didn't do it after that,
Wow.
Which is crazy. I mean, Peaches brings up a good point because pretty sure in T-34s you had to do an instrument check, right?
You did, yes, you did.
Right, and in T-45s we called it our cloud card, right? So we had to get
cloud
check.
card.
Yeah, so we could fly in the clouds. But my whole point, Skid, is like you've done. By the time you've got through like half of T-45 training, you've pretty much done everything that any other platform in the Navy is going to do, because phase 2 of the T-45 is all tactical jet stuff and the carrier.
Right. Yep.
So actually now looking at it, it's kind of we did have we did have. I mean, I do know of some guys that couldn't hack it at the boat, and they went on to fly like TACAMO, stuff like that.
Yeah, there were some that they would transition.
Yeah.
But it almost felt like when I was in, there was too many pilots and some of the others. So I knew, or maybe it was based on performance and outside factors that I wasn't aware of. But
wow,
they were taken completely out of the community as well. So
that's
Dude, you remember your first trap in the T-45?
I do. Yeah.
You remember your first cat shot in the T-45?
I do. I absolutely
do. So were you able to get it all done the first time?
I was. So I qualified the first time at the boat in T-45s, but I'll never forget my first pass because there's the good book says pride cometh before a fall. Man, I rounded the corner and it was beautiful, man. Like, I mean, the wake was tucked right under my left armpit. I'm rolling out on final and I'm like, railed. And then we hit the burble, and the burble's disturbed air behind the back of the boat. And all of a sudden I just hear screaming, power, 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 power. And I land and I literally looked down because I spotted the deck and watched myself roll into the one wire.
Oh,
my legs are shaking so bad. I can't talk. They're trying to taxi me. I can barely taxi. and they taxi me directly back to the catapult.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Off again.
Oh, they didn't tell you to taxi it down, shut it down?
No.
They didn't tell you to move it over and take a boat in?
No, it wasn't that bad. I didn't get waved off. I mean, I can only imagine what bad was back then, because I would have waved myself off. But it was significant, and that was my first trap. I mean, the
burble is from the big Hunyak on the side of the carrier, right?
Yeah,
the big island.
The superstructure of the aircraft carrier. There's disturbed air that rolls off it, and depending on how much wind the boat is actually making, is how strong it is, and it literally will suck you down. It's like a vacuum that will suck you down if you don't add power.
That sucks.
It does.
Wow.
Peaches, pretty sure that's why they moved the island way back on the forward, right? To try to is that part of the reason? Moving the island way back on the forward to try to get rid of the burble a little bit and plus better vantage point, or
it makes sense. I don't have that knowledge, but that would make sense.
Yeah.
Why don't they put a big fan on the back of the island to blow wind over the deck?
Doesn't work. That's not how physics works, Skid. If you were more than poli-sci, you would know this.
Gonky, you can ask me about my first cat and trap?
What is your first cat and trap, Skid?
Okay, there I was on the USS Constellation. No shit, I no kidding. I got I think I told you this, right? I spent a week aboard the Connie during carrier quals when I was flying the F-117, and a buddy of mine got me out to the boat for a week, and he got me the Viking ride, the George Bush Viking ride. So I got to fly with the Red Griffins, and no kidding, I'm in the right front seat. I got a window seat, and I'm with this guy named Sarge, great dude. And you ready to do this? I go, I don't know what I'm doing. and we got on. We're on the waist cat, and he goes, "Get ready, baby!" And what you guys do, thank you.
Yeah.
We snap on. Oh my God, this is dangerous. We get airborne, go air fuel, la la la.
Hey, what job were you doing for the Air Force when you did that?
The F-117 stealth fighter, the black jet of death.
Wow.
Oh, all right.
Oh yeah, and
can't pick on Skid anymore.
Our PTU officer, Mitch Dukovich, great dude. He invited me out to the boat for carrier quals. I said, I'll do it. And so great. Everyone was great. Ready rooms, popcorn, movie night, auto dog, cheeseburgers at midnight, the whole gamut. But that was incredible experience, guys. So my hat's off to the Navy. What you do. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And the trap was incredible.
Yeah. Well, Skid's flown with me, so he knows that it doesn't really take that much skill. So
yeah, baby.
All right.
Brother-in-law Squadron. Out of
That's
justice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, so awesome, dude. So you got done first try T-45s. It's just 10-day a night, isn't it? Or not, just 10-day traps, right?
I think it was all day. I believe it's 10-day traps, and you had a couple touch and goes in there as well.
That's right. See, mine got split over two because we had weather roll in, and they couldn't. So I got to do the entire bounce workup thing twice, which I probably needed since I think I barely made it, dude, on the one that counted. So
a BAP, below average passed.
Yeah,
and passed. So
when does the LSO sit you down and talk to you about your great landings and stuff?
Typically after your last trap. So they split up your traps in between 2 days.
Okay.
You typically see better performance on the second day than the first day, obviously.
Yep.
And so once you get done with everything, if it's bad enough, they'll debrief you on the radio. Hey, we need to see the power out of you.
It's bad enough.
If it's
so,
bad,
so everyone can hear.
Right. Everyone can hear. I mean, there's, everyone talks about, having thick skin. I mean, it's the same in the Air Force, but naval aviators have the thickest skin. I mean, everyone's watching your pass. Everyone's watching the debrief. I mean, you're debriefed in front of your entire squadron. So when the LSOs walk through, doesn't matter if you're commanding officer sitting right there, you're getting your grade read. Even if it's bad. And so, yeah, so they debrief you after your passes when you get on in the ready room.
Skid, you can't hide nothing. I mean, I remember like some of our airframers like snagging me like, "Hey, sir, man, we saw your pass last night. Come on." It's like you're like, "I'm trying my hardest, man." Right. So yeah, you can't hide nothing. That's for sure.
Yeah. Man. I was so at Columbus when I was an IP there, I was an RSU observer. Remember that, Gonky, from
I do. Yeah.
Were you a recorder? Did you go out to RSU and record stuff?
So Peachez in Air Force UPT, there's a shack out there. Actually, we man the same thing. We have the Wheels Watch, right? Is that what we called it?
Wheels Watch, yeah.
We called it the Wheels Watch in the Navy. What do we call it in the Air Force, Skid?
Well, it's the RSU, and it's called the Runway Supervisor Unit, and the guys actually control the pattern. He's the LSO. Remember with the students?
Yeah, that's right.
You got a controller who is in charge of the pattern with the students. And you have, like me, I was an observer. I was watching guys in departure, making sure they're not crashing. So
yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah, it's like an LSO.
He's the one that would like if you flew like on a Monday, on a Tuesday, you come in and they would be like improper radio transmission from they call out my side number, and I mean the guy's like writing down everything I did wrong.
It's LAP. What's that mean? LAP, Gonky. LAP. Long aim point. PSIF, pump, stick, and flare.
See, they have their own LSO style.
We don't have any cables, so we just grade the landings.
Oh, that's funny. Yep. Well, Peachez, so you're kind of like, I didn't know you had prior flying. So similar to you, I had
you guys both, right?
Yeah, I had about 7 hours.
Yep.
Yeah, and I found that primary was not easy, but when I got the T-45 like you, my eyes were open. And then, so when you got to the Super Hornet rag, how did the Super Hornet rag, how did that go for you?
There were ups and downs, to say the least. I think I finished well. I was probably right at average finishing. but yeah, there were some ups and downs. Learning tactics was difficult. Just understanding, where to put the jet and whatnot. I'll never forget this. Two of my really close buddies were in a brief with it, and we thought we had studied. And so, there was a shot tree that we had to draw on the board. Well, at the time, we had mechanically scanned radars, and so there is a specific way you sorted and where you took a single target track on. And the way you would write it is you would draw an asterisk next to the person or the
That's
jet.
right.
But we didn't know where the asterisks went, so we drew them all over the place.
So everybody's
mistake.
No, there's a two ship, and everyone had a single target track, right? And there's so yeah, we wound up getting a ready room down for that one. That was
ready room down.
But
yeah,
is that a no step?
Yeah,
that's a no step. That's a no
step.
step.
Oh, a no step.
We had no clue. Well,
We're not going flying.
It started off with our weapons systems officer. They asked him the out of control flight procedures, and he had no clue. I mean,
oh, dude,
I'm like, come on, man. Like,
Peachez, you should have told him. Oh, this is the entire air wing targeting.
That's right. This is what we do with lasers.
That's right.
No, but overall, I finished up strong. I wound up, I wound up making top hook at the boat for the F-18. The weather was terrible, and it wasn't because my grades were great. It was like a battle of attrition. We're failing left and right, and somehow, some way, the Super Hornet made sense to me landing. But yeah, so I finished up F-18s, and it was great. I had a good time, but the learning curve was very steep.
Did you have I flew the A just like you, analog, and I had never flown anything glass-ish. And then, the Rhino is even more glass than the Legacy. And when I came over to the Hornet, that's really what exploded my brain was like, wait, this screen has more than one level? You mean there's sub-levels? There's this screen can show more than one picture? How does that work? All these gray buttons, they're buttons that do multiple things. I could not. I really struggled with that. Did that come pretty easy for you? I'm kind of tech challenged, but I remember that for me, that was the hardest part about going from T-45A to digital cockpit Hornet, even Legacy.
So I was so driven. I was really driven back then because I knew, I had no plan B. My plan it was literally back mowing grass at a lawn care and landscaping company. So this is my
truck masters.
Right, that's right. So I was so dedicated. I worked really, really hard at that. But I would simply say, if I had to evaluate my strengths and weaknesses, my strengths would be flying the airplane. My weaknesses would be managing all the information that was coming in, so it is tough. Wound up getting pretty decent at it, but still, it's a challenge.
Were you flying the tub model or the single seat model?
I flew the F-18 Echo, which is a single seat model, for about 10 years. And then my training officer tour, which would be equivalent to a weapons officer tour in the Air Force, I flew the F-18 Foxtrot. So I flew
with the WIZO.
I did, yeah.
Peachez, back then, when you were a student in the RAG, when did they make the determination you're going to go to a single seat squadron or two seat?
Before you went to carrier qualifications. So,
okay.
So it's towards the end of the program. They would assign you either a weapons systems officer to go to the aircraft carrier with, or they would take you as a single seat pilot. And so that's when you would know, for the most part, if you're going to be single seat or two seat.
Did you ever fly with a student WIZO?
Yes, I did. I flew some down in Key West on our fighter weapons det. One of my really good buddies, a guy named Joe Viola, we flew a couple flights together. I would say the majority of the time I was single seat, but yeah, I did fly in the RAG with some student weapon systems officers as well. So.
And then the guys and gals that got F models, they went to the boat with a student WIZO in the back, right? So it was student pilot, winged pilot, but a RAG pilot and a RAG student WIZO
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was the first time, at least back then, that the WIZO's weapon systems officers had ever been to the boat because they didn't qualify
Yep.
in their T-45 phase. So they would show up. It'd be the first time that you would take them. But yeah, if you're an F or a Foxtrot 2-seat Super Hornet guy, then or gal, you would go with a WIZO to the boat. So
yeah. Yeah, well, that's I think maybe Skid has been on some of the shows we've covered it, man. I'm pretty sure the Navy is going towards no more T-45 to the boat. I know the next generation.
Why?
We don't know, man. The next generation, because Magic Carpet and all that stuff is so good, but the T-45 replacement, it's not in the requirements as far as carrier capable. It has to be able to do FCLPs, but it doesn't have to be carrier capable.
Oh my God.
I think this is how you know you're getting old, but I mean, back in my day. But I just think that they're making a mistake by doing that. But I mean,
what do you do when auto land fails?
Well, that's my argument, right? But they're allegedly it doesn't. Did you Peachez? You got any experience with Magic Carpet?
I don't know. So one of my really close friends, you probably remember him, Launchpad Hurst. He was a test pilot and he did a lot of work on Magic Carpet. I've had friends that fly it now, but I've never flown a Magic Carpet, trap.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about Magic Carpet? I don't know this term.
So Magic Carpet, my understanding of it is basically an auto land system. Now I'm going to be talking
around the whole boat.
Well, I'm talking above my pay grade here, so there's going to be a lot of people that correct me on this. But basically, the Super Hornet, you can put in a certain amount of winds, speeds, and directions.
What?
And it dampens all of your control. So when you link up to this system, and you're flying auto throttles, autopilot, like you could literally just take the stick and bump it back, and it knows how much power you're supposed to put in. So Gonky probably could talk to it in more depth. The JSF has a system as well, but that's what I know about it.
No, dude, I was the way I flew the ball was like a lumberjack, dude. I was freaking sawing with both hands left and right. I mean, it was a snakes on a plane every time I was behind the boat. But I've got buddies who've flown it, and they're like, they literally tell me it makes it easy. I read an article once, like they did, when they were testing it, they're like, oh yeah, it takes the 500 inputs a pilot normally makes down to 25. And you're like, holy cow, and basically I understand it like you do, Peachez. Basically the jet and the plane talk to one another, and it just makes it a lot much smoother affair. But I'm not smart enough to know like what the what the reliability of that. Apparently it's super good because they're not doing CQ anymore in the T-45, but I'm happy to have gone through the old way. I think, I don't know, for me, day and night and the Hornet was pretty challenging, and I think I needed that T-45 experience to get me through.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. So Peachez, you finished and came over to CAG 9. So you came over to the Argos, and you know what? I didn't realize you were a Rhino guy the whole time.
I was. We were just transitioning. We still actually, when I got to the VFA 147, the Argonauts, we still had Legacies or the F-18 Charlies on the line.
Yep.
They were starting to give those back to the RAG. I remember when I showed up, they had three or four Super Hornets.
Yep.
That's the only thing I flew. I wound up getting qualified in all the variants of the F-18 when I wound up going to the weapon schools and worked with the RAGs and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But I was a Super Hornet guy the entire time.
Yeah. Did you? So were the Argos going through the RAG when you were like as a transition? Did you see those guys in there?
I did. I sure did. In fact, I got to know them. They went out to my aircraft carrier, so they qualified.
Oh wow!
The Super Hornet at the same time I was qualifying.
Wow.
And it's funny because at the time, again, I won't mention names with this, but somehow, some way, I made the commanding officer of the Argonauts very angry. And
Shocker.
Right, shocker. And he didn't want to pick me up because I think I misread. I'll never forget this. I misread like an emergency procedure. I was talking to what we call a tower rep. I had something going on with my flight control system, and I'm from Indiana, man. So I chimed up and I said something like, "Man, you mind if I just punch it? And maybe that'll fix it, right?" And he didn't like that. He had been in the tower at the time, and so basically the JOs had taken me to the ward room. We talked, got to know them. They're a great group of guys, and they went to bat for me. And the XO at the time, who's a really good friend of mine now. We actually worked together at UPS, but he actually went to bat for me, and they wound up picking me and one other guy, a guy named O-Town O'Connor, who was a phenomenal pilot as well. But we wound up going. But yeah, at the time, the commanding officer didn't want to take old Peachez. So
that's funny, man. So hey, I don't know if you know this, dude, but I'll tell you a little story about your Super Hornets. So when I got to the Diamond, when did you get what year were you at the Argos? Was that 08?
Yeah, January of 08. January of 08.
So we high five. So I got there mid-year 05. And when I checked in, they're like, "Hey, we got lot 10 Hornets now, but about halfway through your career or halfway through your tour here, we're going to get Super Hornets, E-models." I was like, "Oh, cool." So that was the whole, that was on their rotation plan, right? So the whole time I'm like, okay. And they were like, "It'll be great. You'll learn the older jet. You'll be good at it. And then the Super Hornet will take you one step farther, be a nice little building block." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And then, a couple of years go by, and not probably, but your skipper at the time was able to make the swap happen. So the Argos got our Rhinos. And correct me if I'm wrong, but they were pretty new, right? They were the newer ones at the time.
They were lot 26s.
Yeah, so they were the newest.
The bells and the whistles. The only thing they didn't have the AESA radar, but they had the APG 73.
Yeah,
it was a great machine. Fantastic.
Yeah. So they were flying brand new Super Hornets, and we're flying our 1988, 89 lot 10s, which I love dearly. And then when the tragedy of it is when the Diamonds eventually switched over to the Super Hornet, they got lot 21s. So they went from the oldest legacies to the oldest E models. So
they did. Yeah.
So yeah, the Argos stole our Rhinos, man.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I just leave it at that.
Yeah, 100%, man. I don't know.
Did your squadrons interface on the boat, Gonky? Your two squadrons? Would you fly separately, or do you integrate?
We integrate.
Yeah, both.
Same doctrine, same mission sets, everything.
Yeah, we would be their red air, they'd be our blue air. We would do. I know I was working up for my section lead and stuff like that, and those guys would come over, and we would even share. Before Peachez got there with the older jets, we would share jets. We had a black stripe type thing that came out, so a whole bunch of jets were down for a maintenance issue that they discovered, and they go lot by lot, and they're like, "Hey, some of the Argo jets are good," and we were on the boat, so they let us fly them. I've told the story before. I broke the mains on a Hornet. That was an Argo jet.
Oh,
so. And then, same night, Shady Costello about put one in the drink. So, after that, maybe they didn't let us fly Argo jets anymore. But that's awesome, man. Yeah.
So on the boat, this is a neophyte question. You got two Hornet squadrons, both doing the same mission, correct? Is that right?
They have three Hornet squadrons. Yep.
Is there a delineation? Who's the Alpha, the Bravo, and the Charlie squadron? Who's the lead dog?
Not really.
We're always fighting for that, but I mean, in our time, it's definitely the Argonauts. So,
well, wait, were you guys low holding or not?
What's that?
Were you guys low holding or not? Did you have 2,000?
I don't remember.
We were. No, but, so Skid. So, I guess once the Argos got there, then they could do the tanking. They could do a lot. So for the longest time, when I first showed up to the fleet, we only had one Super Hornet squadron, the Black Knights, and they did. You guys don't do FAC A in the E, do you?
No.
Yeah. So there's generally speaking, the Hornet squadrons are the Hornet squadrons, but there are little things that might be different. So obviously the Rhino, the EF guys can do the tanker mission. The F guys can do the FAC A mission. But I don't know, Peaches, generally speaking, I mean, we're all pretty much same, right?
Yeah, I think so. You know, as the F-18 legacy started to get phased out,
tragic.
The Super Hornets were a lot more advanced with technology. And so they started to be able to do a lot more, I would say, tactically. But as far as like the mission sets that goes, we do all the same mission sets. It's the exact same, you know, close air support, you know, BFM, ACM, you know, large force exercises, everything else. But we're the same. We're just brothers from a different mother.
Does the Navy have inter-squadron rivalries like the Air Force does?
Oh, dude.
You drive on base and you see this squadron has so many sorties, this squadron has so many sorties, and all that stuff. And, you know, we got the top bombing award and that. So do you all do the same thing on the boat?
We take it a step farther.
Yes, we do.
Skid, and we cannot. There's children probably listening to this. We definitely take it.
You know, I'll tell this story. It's a friendly story. And again, I'll keep this PG. But I did 2 deployments when I was at the Argonauts, and both, it was interesting because on our aircraft carrier we actually had. Actually, I said 3. We have 4. We actually have 4 Hornet squadrons in the boat. We had a Marine Corps.
That's right. We did. That's right.
We had a Marine Corps squadron, VMFA 323, the Death Rattlers, and they were hilarious to have on board because, I mean, you know, you just want to be around them. They're hilarious. And they don't care. And so we had something called Folksail Follies.
Oh, dude.
And Folksail Follies is where it was some of the best times. I don't even know if they do them anymore with the PC Navy, but we would all go down to the forecastle and we would just do skits making fun of each other.
Good.
And it's hilarious because I'll never forget this. We had a high ranking individual that was super heavy set, man, like well outside the bounds. And the Marine Corps, they put on a sumo outfit, man, this massive blow up sumo outfit.
Wait, was this DCAG?
Yes.
Oh, dude, I was there.
Yeah. And they had this gun and it shot velocity Snicker bars. I kid you.
Protein bars.
Yeah, they would, and so they were like, Snicker me, you know, and it had his name on it. And they shoot Snicker bars. We were.
Was he there?
Oh yeah,
he was absolutely there. Yes,
Skid, I mean, he was there. His boss was there. And I think the admiral, the
admiral was there
air
too.
Group commander, yeah, like
Irish, you better believe it. Yeah. Snicker me, man. I'll never forget that.
Snicker me. That's right.
I mean, it's not like these Snicker bars came out slow. I mean, it was like they wired them. I don't know if there were CO2 cartridges, but
it's like a potato gun.
Yeah, it was a potato gun.
It was like a potato gun looking thing. This was launching Snickers bars. And it was so random too. If you talking, Snicker me. Oh, that's great, dude. That's funny, man. So cool. So you did your tour there in the Mighty Argos, man. Then you went over to the gun. You talked about it quite a bit in your Afterburn podcast, so I won't make you. I'm sure it's traumatic, but is that what you wanted to do?
You know, it was halfway through. I loved fighter aviation and I loved tactics and I wanted to be the very best I possibly could at it. Mm-hmm. And that was, you know, I had a training officer at the time, a guy named Rob Keem. Lick was his call sign. And
That's
he
right.
was, Lick. And then another guy named Narco Albold. And they were just big influences in my life. And they were both phenomenal training officers and were kind of pushing me towards that. Mm-hmm. And so about 2 years in, maybe a year and a half in, you know, I kind of set my sights on going to Top Gun. Good. And so, I was fortunate enough to be able to get picked up and go up there.
Awesome. And then you came over.
What's the, I'm sorry, I'm an Air Force guy. So Air Force guys have to get like 50 hours of IP time before they put a package in to go to weapons school. Is the Navy the same way? You get 50 hours and you can get your sponsorship, or is it just, hey, you're going to weapons school?
No, so you go after your initial tour. So you have 3-year tour. So you were evaluated. Your whole person is evaluated the entire time. And so you have to have every qualification that you possibly can have. And then you have to do a rush ride with typically a weapons school or Top Gun IP. And then you go in front of a board. And that process is slightly secretive. But it's very.
Do you go before a board, or you just your package, so to speak?
Your package goes before board, and it's made up of your peers. So it's Top Gun, current Top Gun instructors, current weapons school instructors, and current patch wearers at the rags.
Okay.
You go through everything. They vet you out. They rack and stack you, and based on where you fall out. At the time, there was typically 7 Navy slots and 2 Marine slots per class.
Okay. So it's not just because Cougar turned in his wings.
It's just like
you're number one.
That's
Cougar's number one. You're number 2. You're in.
That's right.
That was wrong.
So you went to West Coast. You went to Top Gun, Fallon, graduated, then you came down to West Coast Weapons School there in Lemoore, which was to basically keep the fleet, at least the West Coast fleet, to the most current Top Gun standard through upgrade rides and check rides. Lick actually got me my section lead qual and my IP qual, which was cool. He is a great dude. But what was your what were you a SME on? I was curious.
It was combat systems. So
Really?
I was combat systems, West Coast combat systems subject matter expert, and that's basically Link 16 and then all of the intelligence gathering capabilities on the F-18 and then some of the more advanced tactics that were coming out during that time that ran through Link 16. So that was my SME area for 3 years.
That's awesome, dude. I like, you don't have to say any of it right now, but do you still have that brief memorized?
So it was, I still can't believe it because again, I graduated with a 2.9 GPA from college, but it was a 3, by the time I got done, it was a 3.5 hour brief, and I had to be completely memorized, no slide peaks whatsoever.
Oh my God.
And I still have the intro, basically everything else kind of gone by the wayside, but I still have my intro memorized.
It's so weird. Like there's some of the things that I just have memorized from those days. Even today, I can't memorize anything like if it's like new, but I still have all that old Hornet crap in my head.
That's good.
Yeah. It is good. Sometimes I think I still got it. Throw me in, coach.
Out of control flight or
set off the cat. So that's a 2.5 year tour, right?
It's about a 3-year for me. About a 3-year tour.
3 year.
Yeah.
So that buys you Skid, when you go to the Top Gun or weapons school, you kind of, it's the gentleman handshake, I think, of, hey, you're going to go do a training tour, which extends your commitment by what, Peachez, 2 years? Roughly?
2 years.
2 years.
Is this considered your land duty?
No.
Disassociated Sea Tour.
Yeah. Disassociated Sea Tour. That's right. But as a training you're flying all the time. So
there you go.
that's the incentive part of it.
Yeah.
Because if not, you could be a shooter, work on the deck of the carrier. So where did you go for your training officer tour?
So I wound up transferring over to the East Coast, so NAS Oceana.
Yep.
And I picked up with VFA 103, the Jolly Rogers.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, Jolly Rogers.
Great squadron. A lot of great friends there. And I moved over there at, December of 2013. And then I actually wound up extending. We did an entire workup cycle and an 8-month deployment when I was at VFA 103.
Cool.
That's awesome, dude. Did you did they have the black tail with skull and crossbones?
They did.
Oh,
they absolutely did.
Now, when I was a kid, that's the Tomcat I wanted to fly so bad.
Oh yeah.
In my imagination, that was me. Skull and crossbones with the black tail.
It was I showed up with the squadron was on the way up. Fighter squadrons are cyclical. It's interesting. They're incestuous, they're cyclical. And
100%.
Some of the squadrons, like, there's a squadron on the West Coast. I don't think it's ever been bad. VFA 14, the top hatters, have been great for 100 years. Then you have some other squadrons that I won't memorize, and I don't think they've ever been good. I mean, it's just like you're terrible. VFA 103 was on the way up. They had a couple. Again, I transferred from the single seat to a 2-seat Super Hornet. And at the time, there was a couple training officers that were Top Gun instructors that I joined. And they had already started instructing our dudes. They were hard on them. And I showed up, and that squadron was really good, like really good. And by the time we deployed, I mean, tactically, we were phenomenal.
What lot? What kind of airplanes they have?
Believe it or not, it was Lot 26s as well, the exact same lot that I flew in the Argonauts. Maybe a few Lot 27s, but they still had the APG-73 radar. They upgraded to the APG-79. After I left,
right?
But yeah, I was APG-73 the entire time.
That's awesome, dude. Then from there, that's when you made the transfer over to F-16s in the Guard, right?
I did. So yeah, we did an 8-month deployment over to Iraq and Syria at the kind of the height of the ISIS fight, and then my last flight off the aircraft carrier, I literally landed. I saw my wife and my kiddos, gave me huge hugs. That was my last flight in the Navy. 2 weeks later,
oh gosh,
I was driving down to Columbia, South Carolina to join the Swamp Foxes. So.
Awesome.
That's awesome, dude. So they sent you to the normal F-16B course to get your qual, and then TX course,
yeah.
Fighter pilot recall.
And then you show up to the squadron with no quals, and you had to get all your quals again, right?
I did.
So it's like, that's
How
right.
was that? What was your biggest thing? Going from Navy one day to Air Guard next day. What's your biggest whoa?
The culture. Yeah, the culture was very different.
Auto back. Here we go.
Yeah, it was very different.
Cool.
It was just a different mindset. And then going also, it's humbling because, I was at the very peak of my game at the F-18. I mean,
what made you decide to do that? Jump ship, so to speak.
Yeah. So I think, I was I was planning on being a lifer, and long story short, my mother wound up getting breast cancer. And that's what that's what kind of pushed me over to, the East Coast at the time. And so we walked through her with that. I lost her 2 days before I went on that 8-month deployment.
Oh,
sorry. And no, it's fine. I mean, I had a wonderful mother, but I lost her 2 days. Well, I'm sorry, a week before we buried her. And then 2 days later I was out on the deployment.
Oh my God.
But during the time frame, man, I literally had an epiphany in life. And my epiphany was, if I'm laying on my deathbed and, I've been a good husband and a good father and all those wonderful things, man, I'm a success. And if they call me Admiral and my wife hates me and my kids are smoking pot, I'm not going to be super happy with myself. Right. So I made the choice to leave active duty and try to get a more stable place for my family. So,
yeah, that's a pretty common thing.
How'd you do that? So how'd you sneak around and not let the Navy know you were swamp foxing?
Well, at the time,
were you overt or covert in your attempts?
I was a little bit of both. Once I was really blessed in my time in the Navy. I mean, tremendously.
Big time.
And I think there was a decent amount of people that, respected me enough that they understood what I was going through, that they didn't question what I was trying to do. And so I wound up getting hired at 2 units. I got hired at the F-15 unit down in Jacksonville.
Really? You didn't want to fly Eagles?
I did. I absolutely did. But the F-16 at the time, I didn't know any better. I thought that it was a closer mission set to the F-18. So it'd be an easier transition.
Yeah. And wasn't?
The transition was tough. It was, I always say this, the F-18 and the F-16 fly completely differently. So the mission sets are the same. So I can go in and I can understand what close air support is, right? I can understand what BFM. I understand the concepts. I can teach them. I've taught them for years. But where all the strengths of the F-16 are F-18's weaknesses, and all the strengths of the F-18 F-16's weaknesses,
Wow.
you literally fly them completely opposite.
Wow.
And so retraining your brain in order to understand that you have to stay in a fast fight, right? A 2-circle rate fight in an F-16, whereas an F-18, I don't want to be fast. I want to get in a 1-circle fight. I want to use my radius to kill you as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And when you swap that mindset with 14 years or 13 years of just it, it was difficult.
Wow.
So yeah, it was difficult.
Where'd you go to RQ? You went to RQ at Luke?
No, I went to actually Tucson, Arizona. Their National Guard.
Oh yeah. How'd they treat you there?
They were great. Yeah, had a great time. In fact, met a really close friend of mine. And he took me in. He was the F-16 IP down there. And
another Navy convert?
No, an Air Force guy.
Okay.
Just a phenomenal dude. And
wow.
It was a great experience. Really good experience.
What was the hardest Navy habit to break when you got in the F-16? What Navy thing would you do to the Air Force guys? They go, what are you doing, man?
Peeing excellence in the morning, right? Right, Peachez, you had to figure out a way to stop peeing so much excellence every morning.
How'd you do in parade formation?
Yeah, honestly,
that says parade. It's called fingertip, guys. Air Force invented it. Do it. Hey, how about your first cross under? Did you do that okay?
I did it on my own and I got yelled at. So I was like, hey man, I'm getting out of the sun.
Leave your position until I tell you to.
Right.
Welcome. Hey, that's your welcome to the Air Force, Peachez.
I had a better one than that, but I told a joke.
I was training a Hornet guy in the A-10, and we're out in the area. It's a beautiful day in Louisiana, wherever I was living. And I got him in. It's called, what's this called? What's that called? Formation?
Fingertip?
Yes. Not parade. Parade. And I give him what's this signal mean to do? Come on, guys. What's that signal mean? Air Force.
Skid's about to go to burner.
Echelon turn.
Oh, that's right.
So you're supposed to do this, right? You're supposed to la, 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 roll out. Guess what he does?
Stays
on your signal. He just looks at me. Okay, I think he knows what I'm doing, right? I roll out. He just goes, oh, you're like, tube, pause it. Well, I'm down here. He went below me. You're like, what the hell you doing, son? Yeah. Where you grow up in a cornfield?
This is why they teach you in Top Gun comm is very important.
It is.
But they're good. They were great guys. They all did very well in the hog. Because A-10 isn't 2-circle, 1-circle, whatever you call it. It's a great platform for killing things and breaking things. So
that's right.
But they all did great. They all did good.
So Peachez, I have to ask you because I did this since kids using us as punching bags here. So as a Navy guy going to Air Force, so I was about to be gunned by a Raptor. Shocker.
No.
And I was taught get skinny, get out of plane. Makes sense to me.
Yep.
And I did my world famous wings level bunt.
Oh, that's bad.
Well,
a 38?
Did you ever do a wings level bunt, get yelled at for it?
Me or him?
Peachez.
So yes, and yes. I would also say that, in the F-18, we would try to turn lag pursuit into lead pursuit to create what's called a range angles and closure problem and have an overshoot. F-16 tried to turn lead pursuit into lag pursuit because it would outrate. And so I was always breaking back into it. I was like, so they're like, why are you flying this 1-circle, dude? And I'm like, well, because it works.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Peachez, they told me the wings level bunt, you were not allowed to do that. Skid, can you confirm this?
What's a wings level bunt? You don't do that.
No, you're about to get gunned, you get skinny. Instead of pulling up out of plane, you shove the nose down. Get
skinny, get out of plane, bro. Roll inverted pull. I don't know, but I'm not going to bunt.
Yeah,
not gonna
the bunt
bunt,
works.
I'm probably
The
gonna-
bunt works every time because when you roll wings level, they think you're going up, so you immediately can see them start to pull lead in that direction. You're like, gotcha. Now you will find every dead bug, pencil, somebody's half
Yep.
eaten lunch because it'll fly up into the you're under
Good
negative
job.
G.
Spot check.
Yeah, well, cool. Well, Peaches. So, how long did you fly F-16s, man?
So I wound up flying F-16s for about 3 years, and I wound up hurting my back really bad. So
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
I
You got viper neck
no, it's actually my lower back. I've had 3 back
Ooh.
surgeries on my lower back
from the
and so,
viper.
it's funny. I make the joke because the Viper is, it is vicious on your body, and so I should have done it the opposite way. I should have gone and flown F-16s, beat up my body when I was young, and then went and flew F-18s. But when you're 38 and you're jumping in an F-16 for the first time and you're trying to fly it as hard as you possibly can, I already had some injuries from the Navy. I was a purist when I fought. Man, I fought hard. Like I never took it easy. And so I wound up blowing out my back and having a surgery, which effectively ended my fighter career. So honestly, I didn't do near as much in the F-16 as I wanted to do, which is fine. Honestly, to tell you the truth, I can get into it, but it was a blessing in disguise, huge blessing in disguise. But I flew that F-16 for about 3 years, 2.5 to 3 years or something like that. And then I got to push papers for the last 4 or 5 years. So it's been amazing.
Are you in the guard? Are you doing the air guard? Are you in the guard bureau now? Where are you working?
I actually transferred over to the reserve. So I was in the with the Swamp Foxes. So I wound up doing different jobs for them in and around the wing. I was the XP, the wings officer, wings planes officer, whatnot. And then my last year, I wound up transferring over to CAP USAF, which is basically the Civil Air Patrol liaison unit for oversight.
So do you know ammo?
I've heard the name. I don't know.
Yeah, we had him on the show.
Yeah, he's working for the CAP now, right? So he's an ex-Raptor guy.
He could be in a different region than I'm in.
I think he's down in. Where is he at, Gonky? Is he down
south?
in Miami?
He runs the southeast region.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, I've heard that name. I'm in the Midwest region. So
good.
Awesome, dude. Well, awesome. Well, Peaches, man, we went longer than I thought talking about your careers has been so awesome. We just
man.
we just hit the highlights. But Doug, I think we had a super chat a little while back, didn't we?
Maybe. Let me check.
Come in, Doug.
Yeah.
There's this one. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Loud clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Skid keeps messing with me. There's one.
Yeah. This is just, that's awesome, dude. Small world.
And then I think that was a question while you were talking about drops.
Okay, yeah. So AMT, he wants to know, did anyone want P8s from the start or KC-46s? Peaches, in your class in flight school, man, anybody want? Well, back then it was P3s.
Yeah, it was P3s. Honestly, at the time, P3s were being sundowns. They were going away, and so no one wanted P3s. It was kind of a dying community at the time, and they weren't sure when the P8 was coming online. I think P8s now are probably more sought after.
Right. Yeah. Type rating.
It's type rating. It's a great platform. You're not out on a boat with 5,000 of your best friends.
What?
So I think it's probably much more sought after now, but at the time, P3s were not sought after.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was going through, the P3 was still kind of humming along, and there was a cadre of, in flight school, you got the I want to be jet guys, which was me. And then there was definitely a group that wanted to get their hours and then go to the airlines. And they primarily would gravitate towards the P3, but I don't know. I don't really know a whole lot about the community other than they make a lot of money because they're always TAD or on debt, as we would call it in the Navy, making per diem and stuff. So, but yeah, Peaches, we've got a couple articles here, man, that we'll talk about. So basically, man, it's kind of get your opinion on this stuff. And I see Doug's got one queued up, and I'm so glad we've got Skid with us, Skid Marks. So Doug, go ahead and put it up, man.
High time.
Yeah, so this is such a cool article, man. So
Yep.
this Karl Marx, yeah, another Marx just retired with
Brother Marks.
That's right, brother from different mother.
Yep.
7,500 hours, 37
All
years.
A10. He never flew anything else besides A10.
I mean, first of all, Skid, do you
Yes.
think, and Peaches, in today's military, you think there'll ever be another 37-year high time guy like this?
I don't think so. I mean, the way people are leaning now, get your, obviously, well, the Air Force keeps you in for 11 years, I guess, right? Before you get
Yeah.
out and go to the Guard Reserve. And the Guard Reserve, that's where you're going to make your time. Because the active duty, what's they going to do to you? They're going to get you out of the
Yep.
cockpit, get you into staff, and leave if you're going to go that way, or get out and you're going to airline. So I think the days of the high time flyers, like I think the first F-35 guy just cracked 1,000 hours or 2,000, maybe. Is that right?
Yeah. Peaches, I was thinking about this earlier. I was like, in a single seat, well, they're all single seat. In a F-35 Navy squadron, this guy probably has more hours than all the JOs combined.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, just think of all the corporate knowledge that he's got in his head. And I think, I forget, Doug, in there, right here. Whoa, hold on, right here. So he has shot in combat 39,340 rounds of 30 Mighty Might.
That's like an 11-second burst, right?
Hey, Gonky.
Yes, sir.
So his claim to fame started in Desert Storm when he was a lieutenant. I think he was based out of Alexandria, England Air Force Base in Alexandria, Louisiana. He deployed Desert. What was the first one? Desert Storm. Shield. Desert Shield first.
Storm, I think. Storm then the Shield.
Well, it was Shield first and Storm.
Okay.
So he was over there, and then he was on an epic sortie. Do you remember the road to Basra?
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, the Highway of Death.
Okay, so he was a wingman, but him and his flight lead together launched 25 Maverick missiles. They would go. They each carry 4 at a time, right? 4, 2 on each side. They would launch them, shoot out their gun, go back, reload, rearm, go back. It did this like 10, 12 times.
Wow.
And I'm sure he shot like 15 or I mean, it's incredible. So that's where his legend started. And then just over time, then he got out of active duty, went to the reserves, and the reserves, hey, you're not moving, you're gonna fly. You're gonna stay in one place, and you saw what he did, and he deployed, numerous times, of course, to all corners of the earth, and just a living legend, man.
Skid, how much does each round cost?
Oh, God.
Depleted uranium.
Are you talking about HEI or API?
Well, how about? Well, like the combat rounds would be
okay. So
actual...
let me show you the. Here is the.
You don't have to bring it out, dude.
No, really.
You can't have an A10 You can't take A10 pilots anywhere.
That's right. I was gonna. I'm not gonna show you my 20 mic.
I feel so inadequate.
I know, dude. Get that thing out of the camera. I can't see you anymore.
So I think a DU depleted uranium round, Costco cost about $1.50, $1.50 or something like that, and the HEI round cost $1.20 or something.
Yeah, I'm just
pretty cheap.
Yeah, that's a lot of rounds, man. I mean,
1,140 rounds we carried. 1,140. We took off full. 1,140 guys.
That's crazy.
Amazing.
Oh yeah,
that's amazing, man. Yeah.
So
the article is pretty cool. For his last flight, he wanted to fly with the most junior guy in the squadron.
Yeah, that's his attitude.
Yeah, there it is. And the most junior guy, and so
the A10's going away, guys. Say goodbye to it. It's going away.
Yeah, we've talked about it before, Skid. just kind of losing that.
CAS.
I mean, the guy has to know CAS, like
CAS, CSAR.
Yeah,
all that stuff, man. Maritime ops. A10 does great maritime ops. You know that?
Well, yeah, better than the Hornet, right? Peaches. It's like kind of do CSAR on the Hornet is like, well, I can't fly slow enough.
Yeah,
I got to fly RIMPAC in 12. Spent 4 days aboard the Nimitz as an LNO. We had the A-10s come out and strafe the yarn behind the boat. It was incredible. All the guys on the vultures row are watching the A-10 strafing, and then the hogs came by the carrier, and the guys were like loving it.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it'll be. But Carl's a great dude.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Oh, there's
Yeah.
even the Navy, right? Peachez, man. The old guys that would show up with the 3,000-hour patch. I mean, they would just they're just so good. You know, back in the day, they flew more, man.
There was a reservist that I met when I was at the weapons school, and he had, I think, 5,000 Hornet hours.
Wow.
I mean, he might as well have been 65 years old. I mean,
Right.
even if he was 48, he looked 65. He'd been drinking and smoking a lot. But he had a tremendous amount, and he was so good. I mean, he was so fantastic. But 7,500 hours. I mean, that is absolutely incredible. When I was going through Air Wing Fallon, last Air Wing Fallon, I wound up getting qualified in the Sandy mission, Sandy 1.
Oh, you did?
I did. And so I was fully qualified in that as a wing lead or whatever. But
wow,
it was funny. I would always work with the A-10s when we went over to Iraq and Syria, and they'd always do it so much better. It was embarrassing. So, but yeah, it was pretty cool. It was A-10 appreciation month for me. So
that's what A-10 is really good for. CSAR, Sandy, Cass, of course, close in, and just they're getting rid of it. Too expensive.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see, man. Well, awesome, dude. Well, moving right along here, we've got now, Skid, before I go through this, when you went through pilot training, did everybody fly T-38s? Or
when I got to pilot training at Williams in Arizona, a great place. It's called universally assignable pilot training. So you went through T-37, T-38s, and then your grades determine if you're going to heavies or going to fighters or bombers.
Right. So this just came out. So newly trained Air Force pilots must consider jobs outside of flying fighters or bombers due to manning shortfall. So if you kind of read through, right, so the service is 1,800-ish pilots short. 1,100 of those fighter pilots. Holy cow. Which is crazy. But basically, if you read through the article, it just says that due to the needs of the Air Force, you may end up not flying a fighter or a bomber. You may have to go to something else. Some C-17 tanker, what have you. And the thinking about, I mean, the T1's kind of going away too. As well. And the T7 is not quite here. So I would anticipate this. It wouldn't surprise me if this became the old way became the new way in the interim. And I kind of want to reiterate what Ammo was saying, because this article made the Make Them Tell You No Facebook page, which, like we were saying, Peachez is super heavy with guys and gals just trying to get in. And Ammo made a really good point. And it is basically, do your absolute best. If you're the #1 T-38 guy and they send you to the Squadron tanker, Debbie Downer for sure. But
big time.
Do the best that you can in there, which is going to get you the best opportunity to later in life transfer back over to fighters, which it does mention that in the article. But when I read, if I was a student and I read that article, it was like, in the future you can transfer back over to fighters, I'd be like,
it's very hard to do.
It's like, exactly, because you have to go back and do IFF, and there's all kinds of money timeline issues with careers. But Peachez, they never did anything like that in the Navy, right? They never took T-45 guys that were doing good and, hey, we need some helo guys.
No, I mean, there were times where there were no fighter spots for selections or whatever. I know there were routes where they were overmanned in the fighter pilot community. So even if you had fighter grades, you may go fly something else. But the Marine Corps, though, I know that the Marine Corps used to take their fighter pilots. I mean, they get done with the RAG. And at the time, Operation Iraqi Freedom was full on, and so they would literally take them out of the rag and put them on a fact tour on the ground.
Oh,
literally from
that hurts.
Getting qualified in the F-18 to going and being a JPAC or a FAC on the ground with an infantry unit. And one of my close buddies, that actually happened to him
for like a year, right? Wasn't it for like a year?
Year long, and he wanted.
Oh my God!
And I think it was Fallujah for almost a year. So
wow.
Yeah, Skid. Then they got to come back.
Yeah,
they got to get requalled. I mean, it's it's not like they had a ton of when you go through. You remember the first time you go through A10, it's all kind of a blur.
Yeah,
you're just trying to make it to tomorrow. So
we had the same problem in Korea. Our lieutenants would come from RTU, the RAG, brand new minted lieutenants. They get to Osan, and then several of them would have to go up north and be Balos. And they're flying battalion ALOs, working with the Army, because the Air Force and Army work together to drop bombs. Who's the Navy work with? Your frogs? Who do you work with? The SEALs or somebody?
Yeah, SEAls. Well,
we did SEAls, killers. So these poor lieutenants, love them, and they'd go up there and we bring them back, give them like one sortie. So it took for your year remote tour, like our Navy deployment, career deployment. They have to like work 6 months to get their MR check, basically get mission ready, qualified to fly the A-10 while doing this Balo stuff back and forth, which it's like those guys getting their feet pulled out from underneath them for a year. It sucks, but you signed up for it. You're going to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Peaches, remember we had that terrible saying, the needs of the Navy. Never again volunteer yourself. Because you might succumb to the needs of the Navy, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
We actually, believe it or not, when I was at the weapons school, we had one of our weapons school instructors. I'll never forget this. He showed up to the weapons school, and at the time it was called an IA, or individual augmentation. Yes. They took him off. I mean, he just graduated Top Gun, and they sent him over to Iraq to be like convoy support or something.
I remember when that happened.
Yeah, it was crazy.
A naval or a pilot, whatever, an aviator going to do ground duties.
Absolutely. Yeah, at the time they were.
What?
Skid, I did one.
He was attached to an Army squadron.
What?
Individual augmentation is what it was called.
Sid. So what happened was.
God.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but basically, prior to, the global war on terror, the Army never really deployed, right? So then we kicked off 20 years of moving sand around in the desert, and the Army was deploying all the time. Well, eventually they got burned out and broken. So then, like Peaches is saying, the naval leadership at times were like, we can help. So they would tag pilots to go help the Army. I mean, I did it. I went to CENTCOM and helped out at CENTCOM. So,
down in Tampa? Down in Tampa?
Well, I was
in Tampa.
Yes, but I was lucky.
You were deployed to Tampa.
It was a good deal. I was lucky.
Busch Gardens.
I was lucky. I made a ton of money, and I did not have to go overseas. But dude, they sent me to all the training. I had to go to Fort Jackson. I had to pick up all my brass, right? So I'm shooting hundreds and hundreds of rounds. Really? And a lot of the guys that I was with, they were like Peaches is saying, they were going to, man a truck convoy or something. So
you're flying an F-18 and now you're driving a Humvee. Are you kidding me?
Actually, I was the 50 cal gunner on the Humvee. He's the first to die, I was told.
Remember Rat Patrol?
Yeah, dude. So so that's what they were doing back then. And I remember.
I don't believe it.
I remember
incredible
when they took the Top Gun guy.
I need to see pictures, Gonky.
I'm me sitting in front of my nipper and computer and CENTCOM drinking coffee. But yeah, I don't know if they're still doing that anymore. But dude, Thanks,
C-130 rolling down strip.
Yeah. Well, the only bad part about the whole taking 38 guys is when they selected 38, in their mind, they're going, bomber or fighter, and I can see this being kind of a morale crusher. So,
What?
yeah, big time. It would be for me. It's like,
The
well, it
same thing
doesn't.
happened, guys, with the UAV assignments. Do you remember that? You don't
Yeah,
remember that,
yeah,
do you?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Air
100%.
Force guys get to pilot training, and they say they give them these guys go through pilot training. They get
Yeah.
their 38 or they get the end. Oh, this guy got a UAV to Tucson or something, and the kids like walk across the stage. He's gonna be in the UAV forever. He's never going to a flying job. He's gonna stay in the UAV forever. So that happened for like 2 years. I mean, have your soul drained from your body
Yeah,
when you think you're gonna be singing a trailer for next 10 years.
that'd be pretty bad.
That's bad.
Yeah, awesome.
So it's all about your timing and doing the right thing, and hopefully you're not that guy they shack for the bad deal.
Awesome. Peaches, so you were an LSO.
I was.
So originally Wombat was going to be on here. So I always when I have an LSO, thank you.
What?
Dad. When I have an
What?
LSO on
What?
the show, I
Those
always
things.
like to do a pick a carrier incident. And
Is this the Navy mishap stuff?
yeah, Skid, just hey Doug, you want me to run it from my computer?
Whatever works for you. That
might
might
He
be
saw
better.
this he saw this in LSO school, Gonky. You know that.
Well, there's a couple things. So it's kind of a quick video, but I remember they showed it to me, I think in safety school. And did you go to LSO safety? Did you go to LSO school?
I did.
All right. So you have to tell me if they showed this one. And then a
They
couple
show
of,
them all.
I don't know. Do they show them all?
They must show them all.
Did you guys get to literally watch all the carrier crashes?
No, we watch a lot of them, but we don't watch all of them.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess my question for this one is number
What you gonna
one.
do?
Well, we're not allowed to take our own wave off, correct?
No.
Right. So, and I'm pretty sure this is a plat cam recording. I looked, and this is the best video I could find. But did they wave him off? Did he take his own wave off? And then second, I want your opinion if all the LSOs jumped in the chute. So hold on, let me pull this thing up because it is a pretty. I remember seeing this for the first. Can you guys see it?
Not yet.
I cannot.
Whoops. Hold on.
No joy.
Hold on. Dude.
Call the ball, man.
Aha. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Play the music.
All right, here we
Yes.
go. Ready? All right, it's good. Buckle up.
Is that bad? Whee! Oh!
All right, one
Oh,
more
cool.
time. So basically, if you're listening, A6 on approach, somewhere probably in the middle and close. It looks like he has an explosion. Maybe the engine blew. It looks like he gets the gear up, tries to
There
do
you
a
go.
go around
Good job.
right over the LSO platform. And they
works.
punch out.
Nice flyby.
Peaches.
I hadn't seen that one before. That's
Have
cool.
you ever seen that one before, sir?
I believe I have,
Nope.
but it's been a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I believe that they took their own wave off. But I think if I remember correctly, the LSOs were telling them to put the gear up. That's how good the LSOs were at that time. Hey, throw your gear up. They maneuvered and they were able to punch out. I never saw whether the LSOs jumped to the net, but I can tell you if I was an LSO, I would have been jumping in the net. So
I was gonna say, man, because that
Yeah.
thing. I mean, I think they did blow the motor on it because it did. Yaw.
Whoa.
Yeah, over to the side. So I remember watching that, and I mean, my hats off to the pilot because that was pretty. That's pretty sporty, and I'm pretty sure that they had a downward trajectory going, punch out at the last second. I'm curious, man, in the Rhino. So like when I got my qual in the Super Hornet, it was the 5-hour high five. Like Shady gave me like half of my qual in the Rhino.
Right.
So that tells you how thorough things went. But I remember being a brand new Legacy Hornet pilot and being taught that if you lose a motor at the 90 in the Legacy Hornet, if you don't go to burner flaps half immediately, wings level, you will crash. Like it will not recover. was that the case in the Rhino? Did they teach that in the Rag? Do you remember?
I don't remember that. I don't remember that right offhand. I'm not saying they didn't teach it, but it wasn't something that's been stuck in my nugget, whatsoever. I just know that I think I've done one single engine approach to the boat in my life, and they would always bring us on a straight in.
Yeah. How'd that go? How high up were you on the power?
I was significantly high. It was at nighttime at the time, and there was some pitch. Yeah, right. I wound up having I remember like a rate AMAD caution was like, hey, shut the motor down because the motor would eat itself. And so the motor didn't shut down on its own, but it commanded me to shut down. And then I wound up shutting down, landing a single engine, but it was, that was way up on the power. And they were, I mean, if I would have gotten off glide slope for a second, I could tell in their voice that they would have pickled me in a heartbeat. They would have waved me off in a heartbeat. So,
yeah. I want to say maybe I first saw that video when I was in API, and I was like, oh, it's because the A6 doesn't have the power. But I never landed. I landed with my Ven failed once, and I was surprised at the loss of thrust. It failed open.
Yeah.
And I was in and out of blower on the good motor.
Yeah.
Behind the ship, because it's different in the field, man, because the thing, the ship's moving away from you, and you're even with two engines, right? Sometimes you're bumping up on the mill stop there. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I was curious. Like I said, I always try to throw a little LSO action in there. I don't always trust what you guys say. I never did anyways. But it is what it is. But hey, we'll do one more. We try to cap these things at 2 hours. We won't do a mental health minute this show. But I got one more. You've kind of talked about it a little bit. I kind of wanted to plug. Mover did we won't show the video, but Mover did a really about a half-hour video on his experience flying the F-16, the F-18, which is better. And you kind of talked about it a little bit already, but I wanted to ask, if you had to go to war. So wait, you've flown the Legacy, the Rhino, and the F-16.
Yes.
So I'm curious, if you had to go to war, which airplane would you take?
The Super Hornet all day long. Block 3 Super Hornet.
Did you fly the Block 3?
I did not, but I flew the Block 2, and I helped develop a lot of the software when I was at the weapons school for the Block 3.
Okay.
And so, part of my job when I was at the weapons school, I would go out to Boeing 1 week out of every month to work with Top Gun and a lot of the engineers that were out there for software upgrades. But the F-18 is in a different class than the Legacy F-18. The F-18 Super Hornet is in a different class with technology than the F-18 Legacy Hornet.
Right. And
also with F-16. The F-16, honestly, as far as performance goes, man, the performance is unbelievable. It's like, being in a Porsche 911 or something. It's an unbelievably performing airplane. But as far as the lethality and the survivability in combat, the F-18 Super Hornet with an AESA radar, it doesn't even come close. The F-16 would be like the F-18 Legacy Hornet with a slightly better radar and a cool, like harm targeting part. So,
yeah. Well, yeah. E or F model?
To combat?
Yeah.
Honestly, I was a single seat guy for 2 years. Single seat guy for 10 years. And I was a two-seat guy for 3 years. And I will tell you this, if I was going to do close air support, I will take a weapons systems officer in my backseat.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, if you looked at the bombs that we dropped on ISIS compared to the single seat squadrons, I mean, we outpaced them by a ton. If you're going into the air-to-air arena, it depends on who I have in my backseat. If I had, one of my training officers, a raw dog or a chupa or something like that, Top Gun dude, like I'd take him all day long. But if it was, someone that wasn't as experienced, I'll go single seat all day long. So, but yeah, close air support. You got a good WIZO in the backseat. You are hunting. Like,
what about? Okay, how about Good Deal BFM out in the Lemoore MOA?
Single seat.
Which Hyper or F-18?
Man, so the F-16 is amazing. I never got great at it because I had limited time in it because of my back issues.
Mm-hmm.
I loved flying the F-18. I was really good at it. And so when you're really good at something, it's so much more enjoyable. Even when I was flying the F-16 for the couple of years that I did, I was doing it as a reservist, and so I would always show up and, man, you're behind the power curve. You're like, I just don't want to crash this thing. I don't want to be the Navy dude that crashes F-16. Amazing performing airplane. Loved it to death. I'm sure the F-16 Bubbas would say that they prefer the F-16, but for me, it was, my first love and was the F-18 Super Hornet, and that's what I'll stick with. So.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's what if you watch Mover's video, it's good. It's my plug for his video, but he prefers his first love too, which is understandable, man. I mean, I prefer the Legacy Hornet, man. Am I more deadly in it? Only to myself. You know what I'm saying? But I don't feel right unless I got a spider card on my knee. I mean, it's you just it's the first. It's kind of like you said, man. Like you pour your heart and soul. It's just like the A-10 skid. You pour your heart and soul into your first weapon system.
Yes.
And all your milestones are achieved in that thing, and it's like you just can't. It's hard to turn your back on that.
No, it is.
I agree. Yeah, true.
Yeah. So let me ask you one more, and then we'll call it a night. But Legacy Hornet and Super Hornet, performance wise, I know it's close, but what's your take on performance of Legacy Hornet and Super Hornet?
They're roughly about the same. The F-18 Super Hornet, it had some pylons on it that were canted outboard, and that was for when you're dropping weapons for the launch to eject sequence for weapons. And so when they put those on there, it significantly limited the performance of the F-18 Super Hornet. But when you take those off, the F-18 and the F-16, the F-18 Legacy Hornet and the F-18 Super Hornet were very similar. I would say I would give the roll rate slightly to the edge of the F-18 Legacy Hornet. And then there was a few Legacy Hornets that had big engines. And when you put the big engines on there, that was definitely better performance than the Super Hornet, but they were very, very, very similar. Alpha control, the Legacy was like 1 unit better. Very, very similar. But that one, I mean, so if I get honest, the Legacy Hornet slightly outperformed that Super Hornet.
So Skid, I'm not even sure Peachez remembers this, but when I was a RAG IP, Peachez came out and we did a Key West set together. I don't know if you remember, Peachez. You and I kind of got in this debate of what's better, the Legacy or the Super Hornet, and it kind of threw back to the days when you were a Super Hornet Argo guy and I was a Legacy guy, and like the whole debt, like we're going back and forth. And do you? I don't know if you remember this. To me, I don't know if it's I'm going to tell the story anyways because I'm too far in. But you and I and Lotney, who was WIZO, we ferried our airplanes back from Key West. I don't know if you remember. I led us back.
I do. Yes.
So,
oh my God,
man, we had
small world.
We had to divert. That's correct.
Yes,
we had to divert.
That. I was in a Legacy Hornet.
You were in a Legacy. You were in a Legacy Hornet.
Yes, I do remember that.
So Skid, I'm in this Rhino, and Peachez is in the Legendary Hornet, and like the whole TDY, he's been telling me like how crappy these old Legacies are. all they are is large pieces of chaff out there, right? So,
Ooh.
so we're going back, and
Yeah.
the leg was pretty short, and like we were even arguing about performance. You're like 22,000 pounds of thrust, big wing, all this nonsense. And dude, I like me and Lotney. I'm like, hey, we got Peachez. You gotta get enough gas. He's like, oh yeah, man, I'm good. I'm like, cool. And dude, so in the Rhino, I just start creeping him up. Creeping over. I don't know if you remember this. I just finally skid. I hit the mill stop, and I'm just leaving. I just leave it there, dude. At the mill stop.
Are you walking away from him?
No, not even close. I'm in
Wow.
middle, right? And I just go, hey, Peachez. And you're like, what? I'm like, hey, man, you got any throttle left for burner? You're like, oh yeah, I got all kinds of throttle. I was like, I'm on the mill stop, bro. This thing's Peachez is like, what? I'm like, yeah, dude, this is it. It's all she's got.
That's
So
right.
I don't know. I don't know if you remember that, but that was my little.
No, I don't remember the conversation, but what I do remember is we had to divert because there was a massive thunderstorm.
Yes.
And we wound up landing. And I landed behind you because you're my flight lead. And I'll never forget, it was wet.
Yes.
I hydroplaned a little bit, and I thought I was going to run off the runway, man.
Yes.
I was like, oh my goodness. And Gonky is forever going to make fun of me.
Well, Peachez, what you don't know is literally I thought I was going to go off the other runway too. Because you know what I did like an idiot? And Skid, you're not supposed to do this when it's a wet runway. You're supposed to just plan it.
Wait, Navy guys didn't plant the jet on the runway?
Well, back then, to preserve my back, like I kind of gave it a big shot of power
You
before I
did
landed.
not.
Yeah, and it kind of squeaked on. And I will say this, Peachez, it's got better brakes on the ground. The Rhino has way better brakes on the ground. Dude, I stood on those brakes.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
to
God.
this day, I don't think Lotney realized the fear in my heart that, dude, we're going to go off the end of this thing. You talk about
Where'd you land at, Gonky?
Dude, I don't even remember, but this is my plug. This is my plug for WIZO. Like, Peachez is right. I forget where we're going into, but the weather rolled in, right? Thunderstorm wasn't supposed to be there, and like I'm sitting there up front, and I'm thinking, like, I'm trying to digest this bad news. Like, and Lotney goes, "Hey, there's an airport at 1 o'clock. It's got a 8,000 foot runway, and there it is." And the old heading thing goes this way, and I'm like, dude, at that point, I went straight up like lab rat. I was like, I mean, he like,
Wow.
If I was single seat, Peachez, we would have been okay. Let's take a hold. We got to orbit. I got to figure out what I got to read this. I got to read this METAR. What does this mean?
Wow.
When they are good, they're worth their weight in gold.
Yeah. So that technically would have been his fault if we would have both went out, because like you picked the runway, Lotney. Come on, man.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome. I did not know that. I'm glad you told me that, because now I felt like I was like, I'm the only one. But that's probably the only time I ever thought in a Super Hornet or a Hornet I might go off the end of it.
It was I remember that distinctly, and it's funny because I remember that now. And I remember that's the only time I felt like I was going off the runway. It was so wet, it stormed so hard.
Yeah,
we wound up going in, and I just remember saying, "I'm not going to stop."
Yeah, well, there could have been two of us at the end. That would have been a fun phenom. So I don't know, dude. Yeah, thank God. Oh, dude. Well, hey, man, we're at the 2-hour mark, and we like to be respectful of everyone's time. Peachez, dude.
Got a couple of super chats to grab.
Oh, we do. Sorry, yeah.
You got to do some work, Gonky.
I hate to jump in.
No,
get to the cave.
I'm sorry. Bob, Viper pilot in space right now, flying SpaceX. Scott, kid. Yeah. By chance, did you know him?
I did not know.
Skid, is that name?
So there's.
Let's see. How many Viper guys are there out there? About a billion?
I don't know, dude, but you've been you've got 4,100 hours in the hog. That means you've been in for
That's
a long
A10,
time.
Not F-16.
Yeah, but dude, it's
I know him.
It's all this man's Air Force,
He
right?
owes me money.
I have a professional friend, great dude, guy named Victor Glover, and Victor is an astronaut.
Ike.
I trained with him. Yeah, Ike. I trained with him out in Japan, and he's been up on SpaceX, been to the International Space Station.
Wow.
But I do not know Scott Kid Petite.
Nope.
Peachez, I think I mentioned the story before on the show, but I'll say it again since you haven't heard it. But Ike was in Lemoore. as a Hornet guy, and I used to see him in the gym there at the sim building, and I literally had this conversation with him, and I'm like, what's up? So, I'm gonna apply to be an astronaut, and I literally told him to his face, we don't go to space anymore. So it just shows you how 10 years later, I'm like, hey, that's Ike. So again, don't listen to me. I have no clue what I'm talking about, dude. But yeah, what else we got? Doug, anything? Is that it? Oh,
This one was in reference to John Marks.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, dude.
Cool.
Yeah. Hey, Skid, is Fargo still a F-16 base, guard base? Happy Hooligans. Do you know?
Fargo.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to school just north of there and at University of North Dakota, and they would the Fargo Air Show was good. So was at the time we had them in Grand Forks too, but yeah. Well, awesome. Well, here we go. Dan O'Grady says, evening gents, headed to an air show this weekend with 10 static Vipers in the Viper demo with our CF-18 demo jet. Not to be well, they need 10 Viper, 10 to make one. Is that right, Peaches?
Sounds like the Diamonds maintenance.
Oh, come on, dude. Blue Diamonds, man. We made it happen.
So, Peaches, how many times do you eject out of the Viper?
0.
Thankfully, man.
This was also referencing John Marks.
How does one stay 05?
So well, that's why he got the time in the jet, because he decided not to go they offer you a path to, if you want to be an 06, you have to leave the cockpit.
Yeah.
He didn't want to do that.
Yeah, I mentioned that in the article. He wanted to fly, and 7,500 hours. That's amazing. Yeah, that's awesome.
And this was about the T-38 article. We need to fill Peaches. We need to fill Peaches in on why Mike Tyson gets referenced.
Peaches, are you aware of the Mike Tyson reference, sir?
No.
So, like I said, never listen to anything Gonky says, right? Gonkamendation is like based on no facts at all. And I misquoted. I said a quote that General Patton said, and I said Mike Tyson said.
Good.
And of course, our listeners and Doug and Google quickly disproved me. And then it was like, dude, I can't. That's that or going off the end of the runway. Like, I cannot live this one down, dude. Mike Tyson is following me.
Never going to hear the end of it.
I had drill weekend. I went to drill, and it was my birthday last week. On my birthday cake, big old picture of Mike Tyson right on the front.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, we don't have that. We should have. We've got this.
Yeah. Oh, you go.
But we don't have the cake.
Yeah, it'll make it. Don't worry. Mover will be back on the show, and he'll make it. But
family model
David Smith picked the family model of the 18 over the 16. Mover love that. Yeah. Mover has special love for WIZOs, man.
The Viper.
What else we got? Bob Smith, North Dakota. Gonky, have you thought out yet? That's a fact. 72 below zero is the coldest I've ever seen with the wind chill.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, we walked to class. I mean, the whole college was tunnels. I felt like a little hamster, man. Tunnels and underground burrows and stuff. So,
yeah,
it was good though.
I think I've been out in the 30 below wind chill, but that's insane.
Yeah. Once you get beyond 30, it's silly money. It's like the numbers don't mean anything. It's cold. It's really cold. But awesome. That's it. Is that it for the super chats?
That is all we've got.
All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you everybody for joining us next. Yeah, he did show the kick on Instagram. Next week, I will not be around. I'll be on the road. So it'll be probably Mover, maybe Skid. I don't know. Not sure what's on the
maybe,
yeah. Peaches, we'd love to have you back, man. I know we just scratched the surface.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate it, man. I had a great time. Hope you guys have a wonderful evening, man.
Yeah. Well, hey, when we log off here, just stick around for a couple minutes. But again, I just want to wish everybody a good night and thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next time.
Good luck, anybody who's in Louisiana.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Stay safe. Real quick, was that a cat? Is it a category yet?
Cat 1.
Yeah, it's supposed to make landfall as a hot cat 1 or a not particularly hot cat 2.
All right. Well, regardless, everybody stay safe, and we will see you next week.